Tonight we got two wonderful guests. We have Joan Rene, and she works with MUFON, and she can tell us a few things about that. She's an intuitive, and they experienced something where they went to 21st Street in Sacramento, and a historical building they found out was haunted. And then we have Mai-Li, I hope I said that right, and she's an intuitive. And I'd like to know some of their past paranormal experiences. But first off, I met them because they told me about 21st Street, and I'm going to let them take it away. Mai-Li, Joan, who wants to start first and tell us how you found these houses and how did you determine that they were haunted?
Well, you know what? I'm going to let Mei take that because she was the one that picked up on the that they were haunted. And I'm so used to downtown. There's so much that is a kind of a lot of those buildings are haunted. And I've gotten to the point where even the crazy people that are on drugs and stuff don't even register anymore when I'm on the streets. So I'll let Mei take it.
So the question you're asking me is, how did I know we're haunted? Is that the question?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, it's kind of just a knowing because my background, I'm a feng shui consultant. So I harmonize and balance people's homes with the vibrations of themselves. So whenever I walk by a house or something, for some reason, my little antennas go up and I just sense things. I just have a sense of good or not so good, or I can sense somebody's personality when I walk in their home. I'm talking about their essence, their authentic core soul personality. So it's kind of a knowing. So and I love homes. There's something about the architecture. So when Joe and I were walking by these houses, I don't know, something just kind of hit me in the head and it just said, oh, I think these houses are haunted. So just kind of a knowing because, as I said, I'm very familiar with the energies of people and homes and things like that. So I just blurted it out and then curiosity struck us. And I said, I need to go up the stairs and look at the feng shui of these houses just because I was curious because they're remodeling them. And I went up to one of the homes. Oh, I don't think this is a good feng shui house. And so that just for curiosity, I hunted down the head contractor, the guys that were doing the remodeling. And I just blurted out, have you sensed anything in these houses? I mean, houses are haunted. Joe, do you want to go from there?
Yeah. Actually, well, Mei-Li was looking in the window. One of them walked down to us. And I asked him, I said, I asked him about that too. Do you think they're haunted? He told me, oh, no. And then Mei-Li said she sensed something and asked, and then he goes, oh, yeah. So I think that because she had already said that she had sensed something, then he felt comfortable opening up and wasn't willing to answer a direct question. Do you think they're haunted? And did you want to tell the story that he told?
Which one was that? About the guy that when he was working at 3 a.m. in the morning, and he sensed there was a man hovering over him and watching him. He sensed he didn't think it was a man that was trying to do harm, but more for curiosity. And we all know we call the hours of mysterious 2 and 4 in the morning, and he had been there. He was working there very early, around 3. So, did he get a picture? I think he said he had a picture.
He did, but when he was working under the house, and he said something didn't want me there, so I got out of there. And he said the guy was grumpy. He wasn't harming them, but he was grumpy, like he didn't like them there. I remember him saying that. And then he had several pictures that when you zoom in on them, you see the ethereals, and they were shaped like, um, entities. But you took some pictures as well. And I think, Paul, you put those in your book, as didn't you?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And when Mai-Li zoomed in on her pictures, and you can talk about that, Mai-Li.
Well, even
That's from your pictures.
my experience with any kind of paranormal is just allowing, just not really expecting anything, just shoot pictures and just see what comes up. And so while she was talking to the gentleman, I just was going to take some pictures, curiosity. And I just started taking pictures, and then I started zooming in on them. And I thought, these are kind of interesting. You know, faces are really interesting because you don't know what time period they're coming from. You don't know the energy of that house. And, you know, one was like a sundial type of entity, looked like a sun. And, you know, I kind of looked around to see if there's any sundials around. The house was totally empty. So, you know, there was nothing as far as interior design in the house. The other one was kind of I would say a man. These are male energies for some reason. I don't know why there's no females. A male energy there, but I kind of felt like they were more people that had been there way before, you know, second felt. I mean, like maybe over 100 years. Didn't feel like they were like old, but they didn't feel relatively new either. That makes sense?
Right. Now, how is it that you two have determined? I mean, when did you discover that you were intuitive?
Oh, go ahead, Mai-Li, you go first.
Well, since I was little, I've always been interested in ghost stories. I've read them since I was 5. I've always like been interested, but I've always, because of my own experiences, and I've pretty much had positive experiences. But now that I do soul card readings now for people, so I'm very careful about energies now and the frequencies out there. So I have kind of backed off on um, welcoming or looking for lower vibrational frequency energies out there because I don't want that to be a part of my life. But when I was younger, I could go into like, again, I don't know, something about houses. Must be some sort of DNA thing, Chinese, whatever. But I was a makeup artist in LA. And in 2000, 2000 Los Angeles, feng shui was like the rage. Everybody was talking about feng shui. So I actually started studying it on the side and got really into it. It's just like a passion, hobby, a passion. But then my other passion was being a makeup artist. So years. But what you asked me is how did I become intuitive? It's just by knowing. Like I don't have so much the visual perspective. Like I can't say, oh, there's a ghost standing in the corner and he has, you know, a top hat and wearing period clothes. It's more of a knowing that something just comes into my brain and it's just there. It's just a sense. It's like, I don't know if we want to call it your subconscious being alert or your, I don't know, higher self talking to you, but it's just a feeling. But I've also gone into homes where I've sensed, now, and that's not so great. I've seen people death, like real death, and I've had to turn around and walk out because, again, it's that feeling of dread and sadness. So I think it's just the intuitive growth period. The more I do the feng shui, the more I do the soul card reading, the more it gets developed.
A lot of people who say that they're psychic, they're intuitive, they're sensitive, sometimes they tap into the Akashic records. Do you two ever feel like you're tapping into a universal library, the Akashic records?
You know, I tell people in my profession I'm not psychic because I believe when I do a reading for someone, I'm psychic. I'm just the messenger. So when I do a soul card reading for somebody, I go soul, soul, and I'm just a messenger. So I don't ask them any questions. I don't want to know anything about them. And I just start, I just do what I need to do. And then it comes out. And most of the time, I say about 95, they get their answer just by not influencing my personality, my ego into what they want to hear. Does that make sense? So I do think it's a universal consciousness. Yeah.
And then in my case, it's kind of the same thing. It's like you know something, and then you say it, and then when you're little, they dismiss it, and that turns out to be true. And that's kind of what was happening to me. And actually, my parents used to refer to me as the black sheep, which I thought meant I was the bad one, but it meant I was the different one, not the but it was that, and then it developed into when I would see someone, I would get a flash, like a picture, and that would tell me something. And sometimes it was a message for them, even though I didn't know what the picture meant. And so I'd get to the point where I went ahead and let them say, I just got this picture. Does that mean anything to you? And I never got a no. It always did, even though it seemed to make no sense to me at all. The other thing about being, that knowing thing, it's really hard when you're married to somebody like us because you can't get by with anything. And I think that Mai-Li may have experienced that as well, because if well, I can sense a lie, I can sense when somebody is twisting the truth. I can sense when almost like reading their mind. And when I started consulting to the state, working on oversight on projects, literally I know where the project is going, and now I have to do the research to find out why, some tactical reasons why that's going to happen so that I can explain it to people instead of it just came into my head that this is going to happen. So that's kind of been the way it is for me. Does that have you heard that before, Paul?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It all makes sense. Yeah. So, um, I can see Zandine leaning up in his chair like that. So I think he has something he wants to ask. Zandine, uh, you, you're, you're muted.
Correct. I, I said no, Paul. Actually, I'm just listening to these ladies, and
Oh, okay.
um, I'm understanding that like they're not trying to like embellish or fluff it up. They're really telling you like as real as they can, like how it happens. But I mean, it happens for them, so it's like kind of for us to catch up. I feel what you guys are saying and how you're explaining it. It's like some people want to make the process seem more magical, but you guys are just and that's what struck out. That's what stuck out to me. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've seen that too. I've seen that too, where somebody they add to it. Because
Yeah,
so then there's what's happening, and then there's their opinion about what's happening, or maybe something that will make them feel more special if they're this or it's coming from there, and you don't
yeah.
know. You don't know.
And like
Joan,
you
what
said,
was
when
that
you
case that you mentioned to me? You sent me a message and you asked if I was interested in investigating it. What was that one?
That that was Washington, California.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you had already investigated that, and so you had gone up there, and your investigation said that whole area was pretty much haunted.
Oh, yeah. Washington, California, very, very haunted. Yeah. And the
Yeah,
lady that contacted you,
yes,
she thought they
Myra.
were either aliens or ghosts.
I think she thinks that they might be ghosts, and
be connected.
we did. And what was interesting, she's 95 years old. She's lived there her whole life, and so I sent her your article. And we were talking, and I said, and even what was it? Wyatt Earp stayed at the hotel, and she goes, Oh no, my girlfriend put those names in there so we could get tourists to come up because she's been there forever.
Planet Earth.
No, so
Zendi,
she
Zendi, you live up in the foothills. Are you close to Washington, California?
Um, Probably from 49. I mean, closer. Yeah. I mean, I still have to come down out the hill and get to 49 or 50 and get there. So
No,
maybe
okay.
an hour and a half.
Yeah, yeah. That place is crazy haunted.
I
There's
gotta go there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
well, we're tentatively planning on going up there sometime in March or April after the
Maybe.
winter season. Huh? Tentatively.
I have to say, from my little bit experiences, there's no curiosity can also bite you in the hiney. So you have to be careful when you go and do these investigations because I've had experiences where if you're not prepared or if you're just an open vessel and you're just going to welcome any. I see this is the key. Ghosts were once human. They have a personality. They have not let go of their ego. So when they're around, they're going to be just as the same they were in a physical form as they are now in an energy form. So it's just like walking up to a stranger. You're just not going to walk to a stranger and say, "Hey, what do you think today?" And so you have to. I have. That's why I say maybe because I'd have to do a little bit more homework to find out what is on her in her energy field and what she's attracting to herself as well. So you have to remember that ghosts were once human beings. Now, extraterrestrials are a totally different subject matter, which I've had experience in that as well. But yeah, so that's why, and the veils are very thin right now, as you probably already heard. The veil in our worlds are thin. So we are crossing over very easily into the physical with the etheric. So whatever level you are going to try to investigate and learn from. So that's why I say maybe.
Mai-Li, that's funny that you say that because I do tell my investigators that ghosts used to be people. So however they acted as a person is how they act as a ghost. And I've been on like 2,500 investigations. So I've done my share, so yeah. And I enjoy more now doing the podcast than I do investigations. So yeah.
You've
Phil,
done so many, Paul, that they follow you now. So the investigation, you are the investigation. I know, really, because all that energy, you always
with
be thinking,
2,500 investigations, I've only seen 4 full body apparitions. Only 4. So that's a rarity. Yeah. So,
uh, um,
With your
Joan, I
experience,
want that.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My microphone is delayed, but now, what were you saying, Mai?
oh, I was going to ask Paul if his investigations were mostly positive.
say that again. I'm sorry.
Were your investigations mostly positive?
No, mostly negative. That's why my nickname is the Demon Warrior. And Zandine's been to some of my very negative investigations. I could look at Zandine and say Pleasanton, and he knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. So, yeah, very negative. So, and I've been to some scary ones. So, yeah, but I know how to do a Roman Catholic house blessing. I even do full submersion baptisms, which is a basic form of exorcism. So if you have an attachment, that's what I do.
Yeah.
And and I think Phil wants to say something. He has that look. I've seen that look before.
I was just curious if either one of you can elaborate on the difference between an intuitive and a psychic. They seem to be a little bit crossover, maybe, or I mean, there's some similarities, surely, right?
Well, I look at an intuitive as somebody that kind of picks up from their surroundings. And a psychic, those are the ones that get, and this is just me, but you're not going to hand me a picture and tell me about a murder scene, and I'm not going to be able to tell you what happened and where the body is. That's not what I don't have that talent. But I know that there are people that are, and they are called genuine psychics. And the police department does use them.
But you can actually see, or you have seen in your experience, walked into a place and either seen an apparition or just felt a presence.
The presence, yes.
Has there been any
Have you seen one
communication?
before? Mai-Li, have you seen?
I'm sorry. When I was in London, I used to see. I used to see a lot of shadow people everywhere, and then I would question myself, like, but then afterwards, I would ask the people that where I saw it if they had a ghost in their house, and they said, "Oh yeah, we do, but we didn't want to tell you because we didn't want." But the question between psychic and intuitive, I do believe that genetically, the DNA, there are real true psychics that are just born that way. They just have a knowing. They're so connected to the other side. But then also, there's also people, and I don't even know if I'm an intuitive. I just think you bring into you what you vibrate on your soul level. Does that make sense? Like, I really don't want to do bring in, like, I don't want to be a medium because I really don't want to talk to humanoid people that passed on. So I don't attract that to me. And I was just listening to Bashar. You know Bashar, Daryl Anka? You know Bashar? Anybody know about Bashar?
Yeah.
He was a attachment. He said, Paul, that nobody attaches to you unless you bring your frequency down to that energy's level, and then they hang out with you because now you've lowered yourself to their level, or vice versa, you brought yourself up to their level. Now you have the attachment. But if you're a higher frequency and you meet an energy that's lower, you will not attach because they will just go underneath you and go away.
Have there been
That's
any
how
cases
some
of a
UFOs
positive
appear.
attack? Sorry, Andy.
No, it's all right. Yeah, the vibration.
Yeah.
Have there been positive attachments? I mean, everybody's seen movies about the negative ones, but has there been any positive attachments?
I did a case in Grass Valley in which the lady was haunted by an angel. So
Yeah,
that was kind of interesting. And we got this strange light source, and she says that sometimes the angel possesses her. So, and it was looking out for the child who had Down syndrome. That was an interesting case. And also too, Mai-Li, you were talking about you've been to London?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you go? I went to London. I went on the Jack the Ripper candlelight tour. Did you go on that? No? Okay. And I went to Tower of London, which is very, very haunted. Yes, yes. In Westminster Abbey, Piccadilly Square, you name it. But yeah, London, that whole town is almost haunted. It was crazy. Um, I know there's something here that Zandy is going to be very interested in. Joan says that she works with MUFON, but she's not a field investigator. What is it that you do with MUFON?
Actually, I've just attended a lot of the meetings and gotten to be friends with the state director and a couple of the people there. So we've just done that and gone out to some of the night marches.
I may have even seen you at one out at Lotus Park, perhaps.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I was there.
You know what I want to say to Paul and Phil, when you asked the question about the good attachments versus bad attachments, but you do know, like, the word demon, originally daemon, a Greek word, it actually meant an extra human. So demons, if you look at the Talmud or Mesopotamian demons, or even before that, they were used, they could be good or bad. And most people, some of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
old time rabbis had them at their just like at around the house, like to help to do whatever, whether it was interfere or help. So they were, and in some cultures and some demonology, they weren't considered, bad at all. It just
Yeah,
depends
yeah,
on what
yeah.
you use
Some
them for.
some demons are actually good. Yes, yes. And if you look at your ancient text writing, like the Sumerians and stuff like that, they actually mention different type of demons that actually do good things for mankind.
So would that be the guardian angel? Another word for guardian angel, I guess.
Yeah, could be. Yeah,
Yeah.
very possible. Yeah.
Well, if you look at Mastema is the demon that asked God, "Hey, can I have, dominion over a tenth of your angels? Can I use them to test? Because these men they pray to you only when they need something, and God gave this in this particular story. This Yahweh gave Mastema that that power to go ahead and use these demons, but He said, "I'll use you how I want to." But there's a case of, I don't know if you would call that a demon or angel.
Yeah. Hey, I want to ask Joan and Miley, what was your very first paranormal experience?
Oh. Can you remember yours? Okay, you go first because I'm old. I've got to go back a lot of years.
No.
Uh, I was, like I said, I used to read a lot of ghost stories. I was a younger woman, teenager, 20s. And I don't know why, but after I read a story or I was thinking of somebody or someone, I would hear little firecrackers go off. And the spark, it's like, psst, psst, like that, psst, psst, like this. And they were a little alarming, but I actually, like I said, I haven't had any negative experiences because I don't want those experiences. But I've had the little sparks go off in front of me. I've seen shadows. Um, I, I think I'm trying to think if what might be the most daunting one would be um, smell. Just smelling something. That's a sense right there. But I think mostly just the sparks. I would see a lot of light sparks go off around me. Just I don't know, energy sparks, and I don't know if they were souls or if they were just energies that are around that just wanted to communicate with them all. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
There
don't
again,
remember.
that's a good explanation that you guys,
Yeah.
you both say things that, when you get in the paranormal field, at least for me, when you first find stuff that like Joan said, that you were a kid and you kept telling your parents about stuff, and then you find out as an adult, hey, this is real or not. But it sounds like you guys waited for whatever hit you naturally. You don't want to lie and say, "Oh, I saw this, saw that," but whatever it was, it sounds like it happened real time, like not like the books again. So I like
So
what you said.
yeah, and I'm going to go back to when I told you I kind of grew up in a house that would be considered maybe haunted.
Yes.
And um, my my parents were renting the house next door, and my mother saw the house. This house was at the top of a hill, 54 stairs to the top, no other way to get up there. And she absolutely fell in love with it and she wanted it. I mean, she says, if that house goes up for sale, I want it. But it had just been sold to a young couple. So she said, it'd probably be a while. Well, all of a sudden it went up for sale. Why it went up for sale was the husband came home. The wife had just had a brand new baby. She was standing at the top of the stairs, 54 stairs, standing at the top of the stairs, holding the baby. And he asked her what was wrong. And she says, I'm trying not to throw the baby down the steps.
Ooh.
And he says, that's it. We're moving. And the house went up for sale.
Yeah.
But we moved in, and it turned out
Okay, no, I have a really bad story. I'll tell you after your story, Joan.
Oh, okay.
So we moved in, and then we found out this was old Doc Bixby's house. It was built around the turn of the century. And he was a doctor, and all of the terracing and the rock work and the steps that were put in when a patient couldn't pay for their bill, he would have them come work it out in the yard. And so apparently he had got his nurse pregnant, and the nurse, from what I understand, she hung herself. And it was the wife, I guess, was a total, the wife did not have a pleasant reputation. So there was some wondering if that Mary, not wanting, young, beautiful woman trying hard not to throw the baby down the steps, was connected to this other story in the house. We don't know. But there was that. And then we slept in the bedroom upstairs. We would listen to Marvin Miller ghost stories before we went to sleep. But every once in a while there would be a storm. And when there was a storm, it sounded like footsteps in the attic, which was right behind our bedroom wall. And it sounded like thump, 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 right up to the door of the attic. And then paper would wrinkle, and then it would stop for a while, and then it would start all over again. And we used to lay in bed and I would say, I want to open the door. And my sister threatened to kill me if I did. Just, no, don't open that door. And she was one that said she was looking down the hall, sleeping. She opened her eyes, she looked down the hall, and she thought she saw a figure of a young woman there. So there were those things. And then it turns out, do you remember My Favorite Martian, Bill Bixby?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it turns out
Yeah.
Doc Bixby was his grandfather.
So in 2009, I was an acquaintance with this Japanese lady. She couldn't speak any English. Obviously, I can't speak Japanese. You've heard of Telos, the Lemurians in Mount Shasta,
Yeah.
correct?
Right.
So she had been I guess she was a contactee, and she had always been involved with terrestrial energies. And Adama, you've heard of Adama before, haven't you?
Yes.
Adama came to her in Los Angeles, and she saw him physically, and he said to her, you need to move to Mount Shasta because you have work to do. Well, she's a normal Japanese lady. You know how Japanese are very proud and very quiet and proper. Her husband worked for an architectural firm in Los Angeles, and she says, honey, we have to get up and move. And he said to her, what? And she goes, but he trusted her, believed her. So long story shorter on that end, once they moved up to Mount Shasta, a bunch of us went up there, and I knew nothing about UFOs. I mean, what? Extraterrestrials? Who was that, right? I mean, nothing. So we went up there for 3 days, and she lived where she could see the mountain just right around her backyard. And she was doing some work on us or whatever. It was all woo-woo stuff. Like I said, I could care less. I didn't know what she was doing. And got to a point on the second night that we would say out loud, hey, if you're really out there, shoot a shooting star across this direction on the horizon in about 5 minutes. And it would happen. Things started happening. So the next day, I went out on the mountain. I had never been to Mount Shasta before. You go up to Bunny Flats all the way to the top of the
Yeah, all the way to the top. Yeah.
So I didn't know you weren't allowed to walk up there, but I walked up there really far, all by myself. And I started feeling hot and cold spots on the mountain, just weird energy. So I come down, and I had a massive headache. I don't know if it was altitude sickness, but I just had a raging
About 8,000 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, a raging headache. So we go eat. I couldn't eat anything. I come out of the restaurant, and my neck had hurt because all night the night before I was kept looking up at the stars, going, okay, what are we looking at? So I come out of the restaurant, and I said out loud, if you're really here, show yourself. because I was just done, headache, didn't feel good. So we go back up to her house. Do you know where Monroe is? All those fancy houses up there.
Yeah,
So
before you get to right before at the base where you can go to the left or right up in the hills. You mean that right there?
she lived in a really prestigious area. So I get on, we go to the house, and all of a sudden it was like a twilight zone. I think if I wasn't with the people, I would have hit on a rock. We saw these massive silver ships, like big saucer type ships. And there was a vortex going out of the mountain, the top of the mountain. You could see it, clouds. And
Oh,
yeah, there was 12 of us. 12 of us saw this, 4 kids and the rest were adults. And I said to her, why isn't the city up in arms? Why is no one yelling, going, oh my God, there's silver saucer? She said it was because she had done work on us and our frequency matched their frequency. That's why we were able to see them.
wow.
And that's why the rest of the city could not see them. So when I talk about frequency, it shows you that you have to raise your frequency to their frequency in order to see it. They're invisible out there. And I've had spotlights come down on me. Am I echoing? I feel like I'm echoing. So I had spotlights come down on me from spaceships. I've seen gold balls just out of the sky blow up, and then they disappear, and then poof. I mean, I've seen fairies. I actually have physical pictures of fairies and elves that I, again, knowingly did not see them with my naked eye, but some reason something said, turn here, take a picture. And I took a picture and I caught an elf and 3 fairies through a forest. And this is like 4:00 in the afternoon up there.
With
She's
well, you wow. So Shasta's been that's been one of your most you've had like some of the best experiences there, or most frequent, or any place else that rivals that, or
she's well, I always thought I had to be around a guru type energy to have experiences. When I went to Los Angeles, back to San Francisco where I used to live, I don't know what happened, but I caught a bunch of orbs that would follow me. I actually have a picture of this, of thousands and thousands of orbs in my condo in Los Angeles. So yes, they do follow you. They do hang mirrors. Mirrors are a huge portal for anything. If you have mirrors all over your house, you got to know that. But yes, in Los Angeles, I saw a spaceship in LA. She's just out of the blue. It's just out of the blue. So once you connect once, then you're more in tune. But I have to be honest with you, the last 7 years, I have not connected to them. But I think it's because I was in relationships and I had not focused on that energy. And I was, like Joan says, sometimes if you're not with the right partner, you tend to sacrifice a little bit of your own.
I believe that. Yeah. It really does work like, but if you tell your significant other, your partner, your husband or wife, like sometimes they don't understand. If you say, hey, look, maybe we can't do this right now. And they're like, what do you mean? And you're like, you're trying to stabilize, but you realize that every time you try to connect, you realize after doing it a while, what times seem to be best for you, or like, mentally, physically, where you are, you just learn those naturally, right?
And sometimes if you're not on the same wavelength as your partner, it could throw you off. Your concentration, your energy, everything can throw you off. So,
yeah.
So I have, and also I have to say, Mount Shasta's energy has changed as well. It's gotten, people have seen more darker energies up there than normal.
I would have to agree with that. You remember when Paola Harris went up there? She had an Alpha Centauri contact. You remember that? What did you think about her experience, or her recounting of that? What did you think, Joan? Do you know Paola Harris as well? Like, what do you think of her work?
Joan, you're on mute. Take yourself off mute.
She's
Yeah, I just met her the one time when I was
Okay.
newly looking into this, and I
she's
bought one of her books. I asked her, if I'm fairly new at this, which one should I get? And she sold me the one she written on Trinity.
Okay. Wow. So you really, I
But
mean, okay.
yeah, so
What did you think of
uh,
Trinity? Did you find it helpful?
uh, the book
Trinity.
or
Yeah,
oh,
the book
Trinity.
Trinity. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think one of the things is that was good about it is that she found there was a crash before Roswell, and that book is about that crash, and she found two boys that had gone in, but because at that particular crash, the army was slow in getting in there, and so the boys had been in and out of the spaceship after it
Yeah.
crashed.
she's
And so she went and found them as adults and got interviews from them. So I thought that that was really, really interesting, and what they had said and what they found and what they did with some of the stuff that they took from inside. That was very interesting.
Very interesting. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now you fresh my memory. That. Yeah. If I didn't know she was the one that was responsible for bringing them out as adults, but I remember that story. Like, it's so many impediments. Like, you get to actually see what they thought about the inside of the ship, what the beings look like
Yeah,
when they're in pain. All this, it's incredible. And they were watching for a few days. They got to see, the craft. Like you said before, the military really start doing their thing, huh?
she's
but what surprised me is they said it was shaped like an avocado, so
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, because we're used to it, the saucers, everything is a saucer, saucer, saucer. But no, they said it was shaped more like an avocado. And
Yeah. Yeah.
didn't they? I think they saw beings too, didn't they?
Yeah, no, they saw them because they were the first when they first got there. They were the ones kind of, I guess, making noises like they heard little like squeals,
Yeah, they were
and
crying
yeah,
or screaming. Yeah, because they
yeah,
were hurt.
and they
Which
said
was
something like something were running really fast, right? They said that I remember something about really fast movement around, like but they were distressed,
Mhm.
she's
Yeah. So yeah, that was real interesting. And then when
she's
she went up to Shasta, she
she's
was invited up there by the beings, and she'd done research, but she'd never had an experience. And then it was like, I guess she was like stepping into a fog, and they were there, and then she was able to communicate with them.
yeah.
So it was she described it as kind of surreal, but it was
she's
not something that she thought. They just invited her there because of all the research that she did. So yeah, that was very interesting. Do you saw that interview with her too, Mai-Li? What did you think?
I mean, it's really cheap. Well, it seems that these extraterrestrials pick people that have the public communication because you heard of Aurelia Jones, correct?
Yes, yes,
She wrote
yes.
all the Fellows books. Well, she too was called forth to come to Mount Shasta to fight Adama. Again, was invited, kind of like Paula, and had these really weird experiences. These beings coming out of the mountains and talking to her, and she ended up writing those, three books, right? The Telos 1 and 2 and 3, and then
I
the seven.
tell. Yes.
Yeah, but my friend up Mount Shasta was the director of Telos USA, so she knew Aurelia really really well and got the real story of what happened to her, how she met them and things like that. But
Wow.
yeah, so she's
Yeah, Mount Shasta. Every time I go to Mount Shasta, as I pass the base, Joan, I always think of that story, how Paola, how she saw that the guy who was in the hood, he came through, it was dark, and she actually had to go by herself, which she was scared to do. Um, just the whole description, it sounds like it was in that lower part, like maybe 2,000 feet as you're going up, like the lower parts of the park, from what she described. So every time I go there, I don't know about you, Manny, but what you feel like as you're starting from the bottom, but I get all these feelings as soon as I hit the bottom, or even when I'm seeing it from the freeway,
But remember in the story, she said that she had to fast. She just couldn't go up and meet them. Remember, they made her fast for
That's
like
that's right. That's right.
and she had
That's right. Those
they were
Peruvians do the same thing. The Peruvians, they follow her exact method. They go up there. They have a group that goes up there, and they follow her fasting method. But what else? What else were you saying about the fasting?
she's they told her that she had to cleanse her to be able to handle their frequency. So she had to fast and do all these rituals before she was able to meet. Remember? And she complained that she didn't like fasting and that she hated camping because they made her camp. Remember?
Yes, yes, yes. You fresh mama. Yes. Wow. Yeah,
She's
Mount Shasta.
well with Aurelia. She's. Do you remember with Aurelia? You know what they did with her? They made her stay in Mount Shasta for 2 years before they contacted her.
Wow. Well, there's a lot of people up there like that now, right now.
There are a lot of newbies up there right now. There are a lot of people up there healing. And this is what I was telling a girlfriend of mine today. I was just there 3 weeks ago. Actually, we saw a spaceship up there, up in the sky. But there's a lot of people healing right now. So Mount Shasta has a lot of mixed energies right now. There's a lot of purging, people going up there and getting rid of all their whatever they got to get rid of. And so the energy's not quite as pure as it was back in 2010 and 2012. You
have a good point. Aika, the sister mountain, has its own energy too. I met a gentleman up there. He owns land. He stayed on one plot like by himself for like 10 years, and all the locals would talk about him. He came down. I just happened to talk to him because he was asking about a camera, and then he started telling me that he made infinity art. He actually gave me this painting, and he told me some of the like most detailed history I've heard about Mount Shasta and even the sister mountain. And when the Russians came there and discovered it, he was pretty deep on it. But he had some land, and he would invite groups to come up there and see the moon and stars a certain way where his land was situated. And he gave me his number, but what he asked me was, he said that he was writing something on love. He wrote this. He had this whole program on love and what does it mean to be a person that's loving. And he had these people that signed a petition, and he wanted like 7 things if I was to write this. But he had submitted it to the government. But the guy was a deep guy as far as love and being with people and just trying to help out. He wasn't so much about the UFOs or the aliens as far as talking about it. But yeah, it was crazy.
That's good, man. Right.
So, Phil, how's our resident skeptic doing?
Doing good. I find all of this interesting. I'm not a vicious skeptic. I've had experiences myself over the years. I just I sometimes have seen things on TV that I don't necessarily believe, and I try to judge if there's an explanation for something that's obvious. I tend to lean that way, but there are some things that are truly unexplainable, and so I'm good with those things. So I guess I'm not a mean skeptic.
Oh, good. Yeah, because I know that my first place that I went when because I did have a UFO experience, but didn't tell anyone because I didn't want them to think I was nuts. And so, but suddenly it was true that there was a little bit more to this than just Star Wars. And so I went down to Contact in the Desert. I went by myself. And some of the speakers blew me away, and other ones, and my PS meter was just going all the way over. I think because there's money in it, you have some people that'll embellish to the point where if they can get an audience, they'll do it. And that, yeah. I don't know.
I agree. There are some people who just, are, I think, desperately lonely. There's also, mental illness. But then, there are some people that, you can see they truly have nothing to gain by it. And I don't, I, Paul knows it and Zandine's seen it, but I actually captured a UFO on video. I've made 2 documentaries, not about UFOs, but when I was out shooting for one of them, it showed up on the footage, and I didn't notice it until afterwards, and I was actually editing the footage, and I saw it, and I was able to zoom in, and it looked like a tiny cloud, but this, with them, how fast this cloud moved around was impossible. I mean, like, well, there's just no way the distances that it closed as fast as it moved could have been any type of aircraft or anything, and my lenses were clean. I have really good editing software. I was able to zoom in and actually like isolate it. I have no explanation for it. I don't know what it was, but I thought to myself, I'm like, if you want to camouflage yourself in the sky, what better thing to look like than a cloud? It is interesting. Yeah.
How was the movie, Phil?
Yeah, just I was filming a drone from the ground. We've got some echo now, yeah. But I was filming a drone from the ground, and the thing just started to zip. The distance that it passed must have been, I don't know, 100 miles in a split second. Yeah, I'm able to. I was in the military, I was in the Marine Corps. So, I mean, I kind of know distances when I'm looking at them, especially in aerial. And so it's just, and then being able to look at it frame by frame in the footage I had, there's just no way anything man-made could have moved like that. And it wasn't something wrong with the camera. It wasn't, it wasn't film, it was digital. So that I just have no explanation for it. And yeah, like I said, when I zoomed in on it, I expected to see like something, everybody sees the metallic stuff, everybody sees cigar shapes, this or that. The fact that it looked like a little wisp of cloud when you really zoomed in, I still don't have an explanation. It's pretty wild, though. Sorry, Paul. Hey, you're on mute. Go ahead. I want to mute myself and not try to cut this echo.
Great story, Phil.
Thanks, Nadine. Yeah. Down at the bottom, there's a blue microphone icon. Paul, should be a red line through it. Click it.
Does anyone else have the ability to unmute him?
I have the ability to mute, but I don't have the ability to unmute, which is frustrating.
Hey, Joan, while he's doing, I want to ask you about MUFON. How do you feel about their standards and about what you may see or not see based on those standards and what you see outside of those standards?
Got it.
Well, you want my theory?
Yes.
I think MUFON is attempting to control the narrative by limiting what is discussed there. And because they don't want any of the spiritual or anything like that. There is crossover. There's connected, because we know that these things can appear and disappear, and only some people see them and some don't. But they only want the really hard stuff. They don't want any of that other stuff. And so that makes it very, very difficult. I think that is done because it does control the narrative. It keeps, and they have that database. And, we're not all naive. We know that database is being used by the government, the CIA or whatever, to see what we see, keep track of us, so to speak.
You are saying the most. I've never, I haven't really asked that exact question, but you're saying something that like it's cutting edge, like people are kind of thinking about, but like you're encapsulating it. Like I've never heard it like that. That's spot on.
So you feel me then? You're getting me.
I like 100%. I'm like, wow. If that's why I asked you. It's like, wow. But I couldn't have said it like that.
Hey guys, when I did my big investigation over Mount Shasta, the story is in this book, and that's one of the articles I wrote. But anyway, um, we went with Holly DeLauder, who happens to be the secretary of Sylvia Brown,
Oh,
and she's a psychic medium. And there was one point of the investigation where she said, "Take a picture of me because there's something behind me." With my naked eye, I couldn't see anything behind her except sky. So I snapped the photo, and right behind her was a tilted UFO, clear as day. And that picture actually went viral. And then we did a Bigfoot hunt because Bigfoot is seen. I mean, over at Mount Shasta, you got everything. The last of the Lemurians, you got Bigfoot, you got uh, extraterrestrials, and sometimes people have seen grays working with Bigfoot, and Bigfoot is doing all the labor. If you go above the tree, if you go above the tree line, some people wind up missing. So, and
Yeah.
1936, Count Saint Germain was actually supposedly sighted at Mount Shasta. So, I mean, just all kinds of weird things. You even got ghosts. But we were by a creek, and I was doing wood on wood. Phil knows this story 100 times. He's heard it 100 times. But we did wood on wood uh, communication with Bigfoot. So I took a piece of wood, hit it 3 times, and right behind me at the creek, a rock was thrown into the creek 3 times. And bears are unable to throw a rock. So I actually feel I communicated probably with a Bigfoot.
and did you say that was at Mount Shasta?
That was at Mount Shasta, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now,
In fact, the
maybe,
full story is in this book right here.
yeah, Mai-Li, you had some current stuff where you heard uh, darker entities are being seen up there now. And you had given me a little bit more detail before.
Well, I just have to share with you a little bit too about programming up there, a little bit about what you were saying about things being programmed. Well, Mount Shasta has a lot of government ships up there as well. So it's not just all extraterrestrial, it's all some military as well. So
Right.
I went to was it Brian DeFlores? Do you remember Brian DeFlores? He was related to Andromedan. He lived in Sedona. Anyway, so I went to one of his workshops, and he had this lady come from Poland who was a channeler. And so she started channeling, and she started shaking. There's like 200 people there. She started shaking uncontrollably. And I noticed that her message was the same message as the messages that I heard from Lemurian channeling in Mount Shasta prior. So I walked up to her after the event. She was a mess. She was shaking her eyes. She was crying. She didn't know what was wrong with her. And I said, you were channeling Lemurian. You were not channeling the Andromedan. And she said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yes, you were word for word channeling exactly what the Lemurians were channeling to us humans." So I thought to myself, I wonder if it's programmed up there. You know how we live in a matrix, so maybe they programmed the same message up there. So whoever channels is going to get the same exact wording. Does that make sense?
And that, I mean, I know what I could see what you're getting at.
Yeah. So when she came back into the session and she relaxed and realized she was not channeling another extraterrestrial energy, she was trying to channel the Lemurians, she relaxed and everything flowed afterward.
Wow.
But yes, so Joan, there is a negative energy up there. I've been listening to a lot of stuff, and there's people who are disappearing more up there. You've seen the 411, right? The documentary 411.
Yeah, the missing 411 series.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul
They're
Polides.
talking more and more. Pardon me?
Oh, Paul Polides. He writes Missing 411. Yeah.
So there's a lot more people there.
But the last time I was there, the top was, well, no, the second to last time I was there, the top was all the way open. You could go to the top, when the gate gets open sometimes. And they had this guy who, him and his lady, they were in a car that was packed full of stuff. And he got out, he was trying to sell this book. And what he was saying was that he was at Mount Shasta and he was gifted with some DMT, and he had these experiences and he saw Hermes. He was going that route, but I mean he wasn't like the other stuff he said would sound like spot on, but he started getting real deep on some DMT stuff. But he had this book he was selling, and that night we were sitting there. It was just a lot of star movement, like some satellites, some other things, but it was really busy. As he was talking about it. But people like that. I seem to see a lot of people and I wouldn't say his energy was dark, but he was talking about getting high on DMT. So
I have a
dark
friend who was
energy.
busted with pounds and pounds of DMT. the, the jail time.
God. Wow.
I didn't think it was an addictive substance, but apparently it is. He was able to synthesize it himself, but his father was the guy who invented the glow stick. Crazy character.
Oh my God. Yeah, John. So the dark energies. I mean, I don't know but that's a good point. Just that the last 2 times I've been up there, it's just different characters, but it's always it's always pleasant. I've been up there when it's cold. Sometimes I stay at that little that lodge they had. Like you actually in the room, you can actually look at the mountain, but you still got to go up there to really see what's going on.
I'll
You're still muted.
Yeah.
You're still muted. There you go.
the Swiss Lodge.
Right there, right next to the grocery market and all that. Yeah, next to the down up the street from the Black Bear and all that. Yeah.
You go around the corner. This place called a Swiss Lodge. There is a vortex behind the lodge.
Oh, really?
And we stayed there when we did the Telos USA event up there in 2010. And I dragged my then boyfriend at the time out at midnight, and I dragged him behind the lodge, which was just a bunch of wood and whatever, nothing back there. And that's where I got the spotlight. There was a white spotlight that came right over my head and his head. And then I said, "Oh my God, did you see that?" And he did. And then it shrank and then it disappeared. Do you know the next morning he didn't remember?
Okay. It's fine. That sucks. That's especially since it was a shared experience.
That's great.
So, hey everybody, I have to leave because I have some family business I gotta take care of. But it's
I
been
understand,
so
Paul.
it's been so wonderful having you on, Joan and Mai-Li. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. We really enjoyed it.
Get back.
Sorry, we had the technical difficulties.
That
yeah,
happened.
Like Paul and Zandine said, we'd love to have you both back on, talk about more of these type of things.
Yes.
I have a girlfriend I think you'd want to do. Talked about seeing extraterrestrials. She sees them walking through her wall all the time.
Okay, I'll definitely contact you and get that information. Well, everybody, I have to get going, so thank you
Bob.
very much. I really appreciate it.
Peace be still for you, Bob.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you, John and Mai-Li. Thank you. I enjoyed that. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
We kind of got off topic, but okay, that's fine.
It was great. Thanks again.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
All right.